The hysterics in power. One of the most disturbing experiences I've had in life is realizing, over and over again throughout the years, how impossible it is to speak to the heart, the deep consciousness of individuals who have traded their genuine personality for a group or ideological stereotype. No matter what you say, even if you show them the most obvious and glaring realities, nothing touches them. They only see what they want to see. They have lost the flexibility of intelligence and exchanged it for a fixed system of repetitive emotions triggered by an insane reflex of group self-defense. At first, it's not exactly an exchange. The stereotype is adopted as a covering, a sign of identity, a password that facilitates the individual's integration into a social group and, by freeing them from isolation, makes them feel more human. Then, the progressive identification with the group's values and goals replaces direct perceptions and original feelings with a schematic imitation of the group's behaviors and mental quirks until the concrete individuality, with all its irreducible mystery, disappears beneath the mask of collective identity. This transformation becomes practically inevitable when the unity of the group has a strong emotional foundation, as is the case with all movements based on feelings of exclusion, discrimination, and the like. Of course, I am not referring to actual cases of political, racial, or religious persecution. The simple reaction to an objectively dangerous state of affairs does not imply any deformation of personality. On the contrary, the more exaggerated and unrealistic the group's complaints are, the more easily they provide the militant with a substitute for personal identity, precisely because they have no other substance except the very emphasis of the discourse that conveys them. The desensitization of deep consciousness corresponds, in turn, to a hypersensitization of the surface, a feigned susceptibility, a predisposition to feel offended or threatened by anything that opposes the group's will. In the course of this process, it is inevitable that the numbing of individual consciousness brings with it a decrease in intuitive intelligence. Lesser intellectual capacities, purely instrumental ones such as verbal or mathematical logical reasoning, may remain intact, but the living core of intelligence, which is the ability to grasp the meaning of direct experience at a glance, is completely ruined, sometimes forever. From that point on, any attempt to appeal to the inner testimony of these individuals is doomed to fail. The experience they have of lived situations has become opaque, obscured under dense layers of artificial interpretations whose power to express group passions serves as a hypnotically convincing substitute for direct perception. The individual feels that they are expressing direct reality when their discourse aligns with the standardized emotions of the group, with the desires, fears, prejudices, and hatreds that constitute the point of intersection, the geometric locus of group unity. The cruelest aspect of it all is that, as this process goes hand in hand with the individual's progress in mastering group language, it is precisely those most impaired in their intuitive intelligence who end up standing out in the eyes of their peers and becoming leaders of the group. A high degree of moral imbecility coincides there with the perfect representativeness that makes the individual the quintessential spokesperson for the group's interests and, to the same extent, invests them with an aura of perfectly fictitious moral and intellectual qualities. I don't know a single leftist, gay activist, Africanist, or feminist leader who does not correspond point by point to this description, which in turn corresponds to the classic picture of hysteria. The hysteric does not feel what they perceive but what they imagine. When the gay activist speaker points to the presence of 100 or so homosexuals among 50,000 homicide victims as evidence of an epidemic of anti-gay violence in Brazil, it is evident that their natural sense of proportion has been replaced by the rhetorical hyperbole of group discourse, which, in the theater of their mind, passes as a genuine reaction to direct experience. When the American wife, armed with legal instruments to destroy her husband's life in 5 minutes, continues to complain about women's discrimination, she clearly does not feel her real situation but the imaginary drama consecrated by feminist discourse. When the most spoiled and shielded president in our history whines that he has endured more lashes than Jesus Christ, he literally cannot see himself. He sees a fantasy character created by partisan propaganda and believes that this character is him. All these people are hysterical in the most precise and technical sense of the term. And if they don't even feel the reality of their immediate personal situation, how could they be sensitive to the appeal of a truth that doesn't reach them directly, but rather through the words of someone they fear, hate, and can only see as an enemy to be destroyed? The root of all dialogue is the dexterity of imagination that freely navigates between opposing perspectives, like a theater spectator who feels, as if they were their own, the emotions of each conflicting character. This is also the foundation of love for others and all civilized coexistence. The presence of a large number of hysterics in high positions within society is a guarantee of the deterioration of all human relationships, the uncontrollable proliferation of lies, dishonesty, and crime. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. This text was taken from the article, Hysterics in Power, written by philosopher Olavo de Carvalho in 2012.